I've always found a well-worn guitar awesome to look at. They just have such cool patina to them. Sometimes there's changed parts. They just look fantastic in a way that relics don't match, in my opinion. Tonight we're going to check out an ES345 that falls into that category, but with or should I say, hey! This was sent to me by a viewer of the show from the Vintage Guitars Texas Instagram page. He called this one the A-hole 345, instead of the F-holes. What a beautiful nickname for something like that. Now, if this were to happen on a modern day, it would basically be for scrap. But since this is an older vintage one, it looks like it got damaged at one point right here, cracked the wood in, and somebody decided just to take a saw and be like, yeah, let's just finish the job off. And if it didn't have all the other wear and tear to it, it would probably just look very strange. But for whatever reason, it's very fitting. Like Willie Nelson's trigger. If it didn't have this gaping hole in it, would it even be as memorable? Probably, but I didn't even remember it had all these other signatures and stuff on it, because that's the thing that stands out to me. But otherwise, this does actually appear to be a factory Bigsby model. Either that, or it was originally a trapeze tailpiece, and then somebody just put the Bigsby on. Switch tip has been replaced, maybe even some of the wiring, but the knobs are looking all right. I can't quite make out our serial number here, and we've only got one photo to go off of. But I would assume this is a 60s ES345, so we likely have some sort of a early patent number T-top in here. But check it out, even though we don't have a pick guard on this anymore, you still see the outline of it. So that tells me we likely had one on there for a while, and it shielded our cherry finish from becoming quite as discolored, I guess you could say. And just look at how seasoned that fretboard is. Guitars only get that way with a whole lot of play. But according to the then owner, it sold at the Dallas Guitar Festival, which doesn't surprise me. Guitars like this, even when the F-hole's all busted up, if it's got the right patina and look, it can always find a buyer. Before we continue our guitar fun, we need to hear a word from our sponsor, Sweetwater. Sweetwater is a great place to buy all your new gear, and that's from electric guitars to pianos, orchestral instruments. My favorite thing, you can pick out the instrument that you want, from your weight down to the serial number to the kind of top. When I'm looking for something special, I always go to Sweetwater, and they're going to hook you up with a sales engineer that's going to not only help you with this sale, but many of other sales down the road as well. Thank you, Sweetwater, for being a long-term sponsor of my show. Now let's check out this Firebird. I had to click on this as soon as I saw it. A, because, hey, I like this guy's guitar shop logo, Guitar Tales, because DuckTales is a goated show. How often can you buy a guitar from a guy that's a duck using a wand that is a headstock and carrying some pedals? But for $7,000, he found a very interesting Firebird 3 over in Italy. It appears to be a dark ebony finish, but look what they did. They masked off the center portion of our 9-piece neck and left that alone natural. Now, you guys know me, I love my Spotlight Specials, so maybe it's slightly reminiscent of that, just slightly thinner, and that's why it caught my attention. But the whole black and natural is just beautiful in general. And on top of that, check this out, I didn't notice that before, it's gold hardware. I don't believe you normally find that on a Firebird 3. So even your wrap tail that has the lightning bar intonation ridge on it is also done up in gold. But where they really sold me was, look at the headstock. They did the same thing up here. Now, do I think it looks as good here as it does on the body? Unfortunately, no. I think what we needed was a clear guard with the Gibson logo on it, also in gold. That way it's not being cut off by our truss rod cover. But hey, that would be really easy to mod in if you feel the same way. I suppose they could have gone really crazy and did a multi-pieced fretboard. Gibson typically doesn't do that. The only one that comes to mind off the top of my head is the Les Paul that utilized a rosewood ebony sandwiched fretboard, and that has always been really cool to me. But it's just rosewood on this one, but let's go ahead and check out the back to see if the design continues. Oh man, we've been bamboozled! It even goes up the neck this time, but I suppose that makes sense because neck through Firebird, it's really easy to do. They don't have to inlay a whole bunch of other coloring or anything. It's just the center portions of the neck being exposed. They basically just put a giant strip of tape, as far as I understand it, to mask it off. I'd like to see Gibson do something like this again, even if it's just within the mod collection. Oh cool, we've got some interior shots. Love the fact that even underneath our pickup ring, they left it, but missed opportunity not to mask off your control cavities as well, just as an attention to detail thing. Oh cool, he even has a video on his listing if you want to check it out. I love seeing the Gibson Custom Shop logo right there. It's placed beautifully right in between it. And as is typical, you can see some of the lacquer sink in the jet black ebony finish. And he even has a challenge. If you can find another one with the same finish, he's gonna treat you to dinner. dinner. I did do some basic searching online just to see if I could take him up on that offer, but I did come up dry. But according to him, he wrote Gibson, and they said this was a custom quantity order for a dealer. So that means there's probably more than one, but I doubt there's more than like 5, maybe 10 at the most. So it's out there, and maybe even in other colors. But next up, if you don't know your Gibson history, you're probably looking at this SG over here and going, what has happened? Because at first glance, you're going to notice you've got this beautiful creamy finish, but we got one knob here, one knob there, toggle switch in between. We've got some sort of a vibrola plate on it, but it's not actually connected to anything. We can see a little bit of some sort of a gap right there before we get to a full-blown Kaler. And a lot of times SG Customs will have 3 pickups. This one only has 2. And hey, where's our tenon cover? It's blocked off by 24 frets. And then we've got these weird triangular diamond split inlays going up and down our ebony board before we get to a headstock that doesn't look like a custom at all. Everything you need to know is in the title. However, you need to know that the SG90 double, he's not saying it's necessarily from 1990. He's saying that's the model. I do have an old review on one of these if you want to check it out. But these were really freaky SGs introduced in the late 80s. There was also a Flying V and Explorer part of this series, but they had those unique inlays on the neck and a very bizarre control layout. So you can find these with just a humbucker in the bridge, or the double series utilizes it in the neck as well. But most of these came stock with a Steinberger tremolo system, the KBX. The thing is trash, it bends, and then it doesn't work as intended anymore. So it's very common for people to modify these, because if you look closely, hey, there's the layout that we're familiar with. Add insult to injury, this is a real moto pickguard. That means it's likely cellulose and it's going to off-gas and shrink and all that other good stuff. So now when we come over here, that layout makes perfect sense. This is a new custom pickguard that they made to, I would say, rather tastefully convert what the SG90 double was initially and just completely gild it out. And when they installed this Kaler on it, they had maybe a little bit too much of the route left, or maybe this was actually the Floyd Rose equipped version. So we could tell a lot just from our first photo there, but I was starting to think, was it refinished? But I do believe they actually came in white, so it's possible it's still the original color here. But here's a closer look at the headstock that makes me go, So we can see the original lock nut system that was on here at one point in time, but this is not binding. It looks like they just did a big old paint layer around it. And when we look on the back side of the neck, yeah, I would say at least the neck finish was redone, so that makes sense why they modified the headstock at the same time. But oh cool, according to the seller, they bought it from Chicago Music Exchange and then did all these other extensive modifications. Seems like it was already modified from the original KBX and somebody put something else on there, so it makes sense. I completely missed this. Nice. They retrofitted one of the walrus tooth arms, which you would normally find on this style vibrola, but for the Kaler, man, good job on that. And you know what? All things considered, I don't think that's too bad of a price if you're into what that guitar is. But lastly, what on earth happened to this Gibson? It started life as a Gibson RD and they just reshaped it, taking influence from an SG and its carved horns and just doing it over there. I've got to say, it looks pretty good. Dual humbucker, ABR1 converted with what looks like a satin open pore finish, so it'll be quite fast. We still have a fairly similar control layout. Oh wait, what's that? It was never a Gibson to begin with? It's a Guiungi Guitars Path SG. Looking closely at this photo, I'm not entirely too sure it was not AI generated. It's either that or the generation just didn't work for over here, because it looks like the frets are hanging off the edge, which would not be comfortable. So something had to have happened there. Maybe when they were cutting the guitar out for the photo and then put the fancy background and all their names and everything there, they made a mistake. Because I don't know, it looks fairly realistic from here. The way the neck's angled made me think we'd have like a fan fret system. As a Gibson guy, I really, really like what this boutique builder has created here. I would review that. Now, as far as what the headstock looks like, that's the next thing, but yeah, no photos of that. All right, here we go. I found the actual site. Looks like they're €2,200 brand new. I didn't see that before. There's an additional ledge right here. I wonder if that's a comfort thing because some people's arms rest a little bit further and they didn't want to cut it away too much. Because it looks like we've got another thing right there. All right. I'd like to see one of these in like an emerald green finish. But there we go, our headstock. I've seen worse. Let's say that. It's not completely repulsive, and they have a truss rod cover that matches what they've got going on there. And that's why it bled out from the white in the photo. So that's why we weren't seeing binding earlier. That actually looks like real mother of pearl inlays. Curious, what else have they done? There's a Les Paul version out there. That's a little crazy. The 3 pickup Ebony Black Beauty, that doesn't look too bad, nor does the 2 pickup. Kind of reminds me of a crescent moon shape right here. That's nice. Can't say I dig the Flamin' Peacock, but the red I think looks really good. Sunburst, not the best. But then the more boutique-y vibe of this one. Oh, yeah, P90s with the blue. And getting exotic with the mini humbucker only in the neck. That is a fun jazz guitar. But with that, I will say goodbye to you guys for tonight, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Thanks for joining. Just kidding, that's not the tagline. Take care.